Welcome. Great to have you here. This is a unique moment, a moment that unites all of us. We all face anxiety and loss. We all see broken systems. We all experience the impact of the climate crisis. This is a unique moment. This is a turning point if we choose to make it one. This is a moment to reflect, to learn, to share, and to co-create. And I invite you to contribute. I ask you to contribute. I ask you to partner to fix broken systems. I ask you to join the movement so everyone can step into their change-making power. I ask you to nominate the next generation of changemakers. And I ask you to share your wisdom, your knowledge, your expertise. And I ask you to donate to support changemakers. This is our moment to fix the world. This is our moment to contribute.
Hello, everybody.
Today is the day.
We're still welcoming people, but welcome to this session. This is the Weaving for a Thriving Planet session. My name is Karen Muller. I am the program manager at Ashoka, the Netherlands, and one of the co-creators of this program. And I hope you are all comfortable and ready to give your input over the next hour, because this session is actually maybe a little bit different from all the other sessions that you might have attended. This is a session where we co-create a new program, preferably together with all of you. That is why we do this. We want to engage you from the very start, when we start thinking about what we can achieve with this program. So please give your input. We're still letting people in, but let's just get started. So hi everyone. Before we start, is it possible, I have to ask Andrea, our technical support, to do a little check-in, to have the grid of people viewable? Yes, like that. Because we just wanted to do a small check-in to just see who we have here in the audience. And it's a very playful way, I think, of finding out who you are. Because I want to ask everyone now to turn off their cameras, and then I'm going to ask you a question. So please turn it off, all of you. So we see nobody there. It's like there's an empty room. So please turn off your cameras. I see Nicola. I still see you, but that's okay. If you don't want to hide yourself, please stay with me. And my question is to turn on your camera if you are an Ashoka Fellow. Can you do that? If you are an Ashoka Fellow, can you turn on your camera? There we go. There's a few fellows in the room here. That's great. Welcome, especially because we invited you to join this session because we hope we can really engage you in this. We think this program is about you and with you. So thank you for joining. Can you turn your cameras off? Thank you. And now turn your cameras on if you think biodiversity is our lifeline. Who is agreeing with us? Yes, I see many of you, fortunately, because this session is all about that. So imagine if no one turned on his camera, then we could go back to the drawing board. But thank you. Yes. Okay, turn it off one more time, please. One last question that I want to ask. If you turn your cameras off and answer the question by turning it on again, if you believe that multi-stakeholder collaboration to stop biodiversity loss is really crucial. So turn it on if you agree with that vision, that multi-stakeholder collaboration is crucial to stop biodiversity loss. Fortunately, I see a lot of faces, and I'm actually curious who didn't turn on the video, but we will find out later when we look back in the recordings. So thank you. Well, and there you have, maybe Andrea, you can continue with the slides, because there you have the 3 ingredients of the actual program. You have the Ashoka Fellows that we believe have very important innovations in the field of biodiversity, and that we need to work better together and learn more from each other and share the learnings that we can have to make bigger collective impact. I think that is the essence of what we are trying to do with this program. Ashoka Fellows worldwide are already making waves in the environmental field. And with the right support, we believe we can truly turn the tide. And to preserve biodiversity, we aim to accelerate and scale the systemic solutions of initially 20 to 30 fellows by leveraging their potential of their innovations and by weaving them together to increase the collective impact. And what makes them stand out is that they don't only focus on preserving biodiversity, but that they are experts in doing this through a grassroots community-based approach. That's what we're looking for, because we strongly believe that collective action with the communities on the ground is so essential to make progress. So again, today we would like to have your input for this ambitious 5-year plan. Perhaps you are a potential partner, a potential sponsor, whatever capacity you want to get engaged, please stay with us. And we're also super happy that we developed this program closely together with Ashoka's Next Now Planet and Climate team. Maybe some of you are in the room who have been instrumental in mapping the fellows who are working in this field. You have to imagine we have thousands of fellows, so to really know who is doing what and to map that clearly, that was the first step that we needed to take. And also we work very closely with the European Fellowship program team, which is also really nice. That shows how we as Ashoka integrate more and more as a European diamond. And we work together on this program. We execute the activities together, but also are currently jointly fundraising on an international level for this program. So, like I said, this program is co-created by Ashoka Fellows, and they drive the much needed innovations in the field. They have replicable and community-based solutions that we want to combine and make bigger collective impact with. And we have 4 fellows lined up for you. We're going to listen in a minute to my colleague Noah Lodijzen. She's also director of Ashoka the Netherlands. And she will tell more about the structure of the program and the activities that we envision to reach our goal. After that, we will listen to fellow Ignace Schops. He is the president of Europark Federation, amongst others, and also a co-lead of this team. And he will talk about the need to collaborate and why it's so important that we launch this program now. We will then listen to fellow Geert van der Veer. He is also a Dutch fellow, founder of Herenboeren, and also a co-lead of this team. And he will explain more about our shared vision, why we need to create regenerative solutions in the agricultural sector, which is so closely linked to the problem of biodiversity loss, and why he is so committed to be part of this program. And then we will listen, I think very special that we have Gladys Kalema Sizuka here with us. She's the founder of the Conservation Through Public Health organization in Uganda. She got famous with working and protecting the environment of gorillas. And she's actually there at the site And her work is an excellent example of such a successful community-based approach to fight biodiversity loss. And I want you to keep that in mind, that she's actually there on the ground when she is presenting to us, because we feel that that is also what we envision with the program, to amplify the voices of the local communities. In this case, the people who are safeguarding the living habitat of the few gorillas that are left in this world. After the 4 presentations, there's space to interact with you. So please think already about questions that you have, like around this program, and then put them in the chat. My colleague Lotte is monitoring the chat, so she will make sure that questions are listed and hopefully answered during this session. And then we will close off with some reflections, amongst others, of the MAVA Foundation, who was very generous to be one of the first funders of this program. So without any further ado, this is now for Noah to explain us more. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Karin. Really, really great pleasure to present the Weaving for a Thriving Planet program. I'll try to keep it very short. Actually, I think Karin gave a good introduction. I'll just talk a bit about the design principles. And the main question I have for you guys, because we are still in a design phase, this is the moment really to get input. So for those especially who are going to be involved, but also for those who have interesting perspectives, please give us feedback, because that, actually with the vision to really make a change with this program. So that would be great. Just a short insight. We have selected, or we pre-selected 25 fellows in Europe who we want to involve in the program, or at least who we're speaking with, and we're doing interviews at the moment. And we have also pre-selected around 70 fellows that are globally in different other continents that we could potentially invite if we have enough funding in a later stage. So that is as a starting point, as Karin expressed, we have at this moment Inyas and Geert, who are really closely co-designing this with us. But at the moment we are exploring, and we hope to explore that with everyone, with the big question, how can we make a greater impact than the sum of its parts? So the individual programs are amazing. There is so much impact, there's so many communities involved, but how can we actually even create a bigger impact that's so amazingly needed at this moment? We have we have funding for the Europe launch, which we are really happy. MAVA Foundation and the Hoge Denne did the start of it, and we're still looking for funds for the global part. So great. Just to have a small, we have already here a small slide. This was the most difficult slide for me to make, because seriously, we have so many amazing stories and programs. So I've done it over and over again, and I couldn't decide. And that's the main thing I wanted to say, because every story is unique and amazing, and so impactful. There's so many community-based organizations in Ashoka focusing on biodiversity in all its diversity. But I just captured a few just for you to have an overview of what is there, but it's totally not an overview. Giuseppe Savino with FASAP has a program. He's building a network of for small isolated farmers in Italy, which is a program he's scaling at the moment. And they offer training, support the farmers. They towards more sustainable farming, but also he enables them to approach policymakers with a common voice, which is quite an important element. Florin Stoican, he might be here with a Romanian initiative which was a first citizen-led national park that created a functional system for protected areas. A very interesting concept, multi-stakeholder program as well, and he's also scaling quite a lot and interested also scaling further. Sue Riddlestone with Bioregional, with the One Planet Living framework. She provides tools and advice and trainings and has a big community around 600,000 members, but also support eco-villages around the world. Harry Jones, so these are the European focused, that's why it was so difficult, I could only choose 3. From a more international perspective, Harry Jones with the natural justice, who created legal instruments called biocultural, which are giving indigenous community control over their natural resources and preserving biocultural diversity and changing landscapes. Very interesting concept as well, active in different countries. Alistair Harris with Blue Venture works with fishermen communities. And he is helping them to support on a global, being part of a global economy, and also improve at the same time natural resources. And then we have Gladys, and Gladys will tell her own story. So maybe next slide. But what is important to say, and we see a lot of patterns also doing the in-depth interviews, we see that essential of the Ashoka Fellows is that they are more holistic than the traditional approaches. So they can include much more. You can see that healthcare and natural or landscape restorations are combined, or different interconnected programs, which is quite an important thing of our program as well, to interconnect and to approach things more holistically. About this specific program, it is into, we actually, based on the interviews as well, we came up with this 3 type of interventions. So we've done a lot of interviews so far, and this is actually something that came out. So Ashoka Fellows would like to have support on their scaling their social impact, but also support in replicating their models. So this is one element that will focus on this program. The second part is facilitate the peer learning, which is important because what most Ashoka Fellows expressed is that we can learn much better from each other than actually learning from scientists or models, existing models. But really on the ground learning is important to scale our impact. Third element is aligning to a common purpose, and that's collective action. And this is actually kind of our aim. How can we find a collective action together? What can we really do that is beyond our own initiatives at this moment? Next slide.
Noah, sorry to interrupt, but your mic is disruptive because you move probably. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes.
thanks. And can you keep an eye on the time, please?
Yes. Let me actually keep it a little bit shorter. So in those different interventions we are describing, we want to focus on supporting the strategy for scaling, supporting a network, building a network for people to scale or replicate, and also the peer learning around scaling, because there are a lot of different strategies around that. Second slide, next slide. The other thing I already mentioned is peer learning. We selected, we are selecting specifically community-based approaches, because that is something we can really exchange in our learning. And there's a lot to learn. I don't think anyone has really found the golden tool yet, but there are a lot of best practices we can share with each other. One of the wishes everyone was mentioning, that they want to visit each other. So this is like a a project to, we hope to include this. The next element is aligning to a common purpose. Here we have we got already some brainstorms. What if we could actually deepen our impact by combining our approaches in our different communities we have? So everyone has communities behind it, but what if we combine those approaches so to deepen the impact? The second one is amplifying the voices of the community by connecting them. This is really important, you know, we can have a bigger voice, and then increasing the impact by widening it by a good story, collective story to spread our message. Public evidence is an important element that's been mentioned a lot. Like, what if we collectively look at the evidence we have to tell the story more strongly, and join forces for policy influencing, but also in collectively really raise funds. Yeah, we have set out a 5-year program. I won't bore you exactly with how we want to do this, but or maybe it's not even boring, but I think it's nicer to have the details of the fellows at the moment. And this is also, we have a clear structure, but it is an emergent process because we want to co-create it. Over to you, Karin.
We quickly go to our next fellow, who is going to tell more about this program, and that it's Inyas, please.
Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to this session of Ashoka. Yeah, let's wave to each other. So beautiful, huh? So yeah, I'm happy to be here. So next slide, please, because I would like to show this slide, because that's where it all started, huh? For me, but for everyone, I think, with the passion, with love for wildlife. For maybe Gladys, it's gorillas. For me, it was frogs and lizards and snakes 30 years ago. Next slide, please. But if Noah was asking, why do we need to do it now? Why do we need to act now? It's because of the silent collapse of our natural ecosystems. We know that our planet is collapsing. Biodiversity, also climate change is really hitting us. It's a systemic mistake, and we have to try to solve it. And that's why the first thing is that it is important that we start today, this evening, to co-create, to weave together. Yeah, next slide, please. And the other thing what I came across was, and that was a big, let's say, lesson for myself, is that value is in the eye of the beholder. And that's a big sentence for me. Next slide. And I try to show you a little bit about that, because if you look to the painting of the sunflowers of Van Gogh, of the Sagrada Familia in Spain, in Barcelona, why are they still there? Because people valued it. Because value is in the eye of the beholder. And how does it come that it is, when it concerns biodiversity, wildlife, it's less concerning for people? So we have to bring biodiversity, nature, our natural systems into the hearts of the people so that they can value it. That's so important. So people, communities, that's why also this program is based on communities. Next slide, please. So we have to have nature on our mind during the day, at night, to talk to each other, to create, to connect with our passion, so that we can scale our impact, to have peer-to-peer learning, and also to work for collective action. Next slide, please. So yeah, a little bit, yeah, I refer to the past president here of the United States, but maybe we have to use his communication here to make Earth great again. This is, I think, a great message for all of us. We start in Europe, but then we spread it all over the world, and we are going to make it great again. Yeah, next slide. And that's why in my region in Belgium, I work now also internationally because I'm president of Europark Federation, which is the largest network on protected areas in Europe with 40 million hectares. But in Belgium, we created a model which is called the reconnection model. That is reconnecting society with nature, to involve people, to have that value that is in the eye of the beholder, to connect them with nature, with reconnecting nature to nature. So we reconnect literally the nature again, people with nature, business with nature, and policy with practice, because at certain moments it's also needed that we have to bring in the public sector, the governments as well. Yeah, next slide, please. And it is a bottom-up approach. So that's a beautiful thing that we go to the communities, we talk to them, we listen to their desires, and then we try to design a program out of that. Yeah, next slide, please. And that's what we did in Belgium, which is I'm living in Flanders in a very densely populated area, former coal mining region, but with a beautiful heritage, natural heritage, with all these beautiful heathlands. So we created bottom up the first and only national park Belgium has, and the success is huge. Next slide, please. We do it, of course, collaboratively with a lot of stakeholders and partners. So again, it's about preserving wildlife for the intrinsic values, but you have to do it by people because they value it. They will give you power in the end. Next slide, please. And that's what we see, of course. We have at the one hand side, you see it on the left, an inclusive protection of the intrinsic values with habitat restoration and halting the loss of biodiversity. But on the other hand, and that's the beautiful output of it, there's an inclusive society with the socio-economic benefits. And only for the national park in Belgium, it's 191 million a year and 5,000 jobs are connected with that. So it's a huge, huge positive effect of preserving wildlife. Next slide, please. So we need new toolkits to save the planet, and that's where we and you we need you for helping us. We need you for scaling our impact, to know what you are doing wherever you are, and of course then we learn from each other, and then we can create something beautiful. Next slide, please. And that's where I need and we need you all for a weaving for a thriving planet. And we do it, and we love to do it in the Ashoka family. So I welcome you in the near future to help us to design the most beautiful project in the world, and it's about safeguarding our planet. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you, Injas. That was really an inspiring presentation, beautiful images. Let's go quickly now to fellow Geert van der Veer.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank you for all for attending this meeting, because it's very important, as already many times said, that we are going to cooperate and we can find each other on this enormous topic. My slide is called Let's Regenerate Soil. And maybe we should also start looking at some wise people. I'd like to quote as many times as possible. This is Aldo Leopold telling us that we are abusing soil because we are consider it as a commodity belonging to us. And when we see it as a community to which we belong, we may begin to use it with love and respect. Something really, really wise, I think, he said. Next slide, please. And this one, I have the whole speech here. It is from Seattle, the Indian who, with his really wise words, when Americans came, white men came to buy the earth they were living on. How can you buy or sell the sky, the warmth of the land? That idea is strange to us. If we do not own the freshness of the air and the sparkle of the water, how can we buy them? White man treats his mother, the earth, and his brother, the sky, as things to be bought, plundered, soiled like sheep or bride breeds. This appetite will devour the earth and leave it behind on a desert. 1854, and I think today we can see that it's coming true. So please, next slide. So let's focus on what's happening in Europe, and I can especially see that from the Netherlands point of view. But I'd like to focus on land use and especially farming, because in my opinion, nature conservation and biodiversity conservation only exist because the soil next to it is not used properly. And I think farming is one of the components that have a big contribution to that. So let's have some facts and figures. The average age of farmers increases. In the Netherlands, it's 58 years, and they have no successor. An enormous number of farmers quit per day. In the Netherlands, the number is 7 per day, but that's not a big number. But for such a small country, it is. In my 20 years of experience, we started with almost 100,000 farmers, and right now it's 55,000. So in 2 decades, 50% of the farmers quit their job. And that's because they were forced to work extremely efficient. Depending on chemicals and fertilizer, they have to use big and heavy machinery to enable them to work on the big areas of field they own and they work on. And with all of that, the distribution of food is not fair and doesn't solve any hunger. Or that's the other way around, of course, the obesities. So farmers are also very depending for the income support from Europe. So if you see this, what is happening right now economically with the sector? But that's not it. Next slide, please. Because at the end, it ends in decrease for soil life and soil quality, a decrease of biodiversity, landscape, environmental problems, and also climate change. And did you know, and that's also a globally number, that every 5 seconds, so remember how many times 5 seconds are in this meeting, the equivalent of 1 soccer field is lost due to soil erosion. So there is really happening something. As the FAO from the United Nations calculated, there is only for 60 years of carbon left in the soil. To translate that into food, that's only 60 years of harvesting. And there are so less people who know this, because the average inhabitant of our countries walks into a supermarket and buys his food. And nobody knows that this is all happening. So it's very important to start working with communities. Next slide, please. In my opinion, the current system is bankrupt. And there is a big problem, because the governments are politically divided. They cannot solve it. You know, we have to do it ourselves. That's my point. Big lobbies from market parties with major interests, and what I think is true, that innovation doesn't come from within the agricultural sector. I think we have to do it ourselves. So there is a big chance. The big chance of working together with people, starting communities, doing what they can do to solve these enormous problems. And we do have good concepts, like Noah also showed in her talk, amongst us as in fellows. So let's unite, cooperate, and be the change. I think we can do that when we do it all together. Next slide, please. Well, let me tell you something about what we do, just to inspire you and to see what we can do with it when we work together. I really wanted to start a new farm concept. The regular farm, it's owned by a farmer, and he has employees who work on the farm, and then everything happened like I just shown you. So what I thought is we got to do it differently. We designed this 3-pillar approach, like nature-driven, that makes something like listen to nature. Don't fight nature every time with your chemicals, but listen to nature. Ask yourself why leaves fall from the tree in autumn and not in spring. So what do you need to do when you, what can you learn from that when you're producing food? We also say it's socially connected. You know, that has to do something with the communities we start. The farming should, in our country, 2% of the people is working in farm and agricultural world. That means that 98% can do something differently. But there is a huge gap between who work in food production and who are eating it, you know? And I think we have to find new models that are economically supporting every value we can create. And in between these 3 pillars, there is the regeneration of environment, the multiple value creation, and community development. And what we are aiming for in the Netherlands is a 700,000 hectares approach. We want to conserve 700,000 hectares and make them safe and healthy for the next 7 generations. Next slide, please. We have a very easy concept. We invite households to start their own farm. And what they do is they pay a one-time deposit of 2,000 euros each. So in total, we bring together per farm 400,000 euros. With that amount of money, we do all the investment needed into farm. You can imagine a tractor, you can imagine trees for fruit, etc. And after we have prepared the farm, we start with the food production, and all the members, 200 households represent 500 people. They pay a contribution. So therefore, we can share the cost and we can share the harvest. Actually, we have organized a collective ownership on the farm. And what, next slide, please. What we bring from that is that every member has enough fruit to eat, has 45 different vegetables. We eat pigs, meat from pigs, from eggs, from chickens and beef. And we have meat, eggs from the chickens, potatoes, onions, herbs. There is a lot to share when you start a farm like this. And in the last 4 years, we have been able to start 9 farms. We have 25 farm projects under construction, reaching out for 10,000 households already, 2,000 participating in the farm. And if you imagine that every farm is 20 hectares, we have already stored 150 hectares in 4 years. So next slide, please. So this is what it looks like. Regular people who were used to walk into the supermarket and get their food, ignorant of what is happening, and these people are really starting up their own farm and listening and want to contribute to solve this problem. Next slide, please. So let's start weaving. That's what I want to know. I want to know, what can we do if I can combine this model with the models from other fellows? What can we learn from each other, and what can we do together, and how can we create also new knowledge not existing yet? What if we could scale up, and what if we could interconnect our models that already exist? I think this is just one working model, and what if we could save our planet by making everyone a change maker? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Geert, for this explanation, also how you work. And then from the communities in the Netherlands so far that you work with, we want to go to the communities in the Ugandan highlands. Gladys, are you still with us? Then it's your turn to explain us more on how you work with the community.
Okay. I'm so excited to be on this panel. I'm right here in Bwindi, Penetrable National Park. In fact, today we went and checked on a gorilla group called Bitukura Gorilla Group, and tourism has restarted after the COVID-19 pandemic lockdown. And although the pandemic is continuing in Uganda, we felt that tourism was important to begin, as much as tourists pose a great health risks to gorillas, because we share over 98% genetic material and can easily make each other sick. However, it's been seen that, when you have tourists, the communities are less likely to poach because they're getting revenue from the great apes. So it started, and we've been training the park staff all through this week and next week how to prevent COVID-19 amongst themselves and between people and gorillas, also by managing the visitors who come to visit them. The gorilla in the photo is one of my favorite gorillas. He's called Kanyonyi. I knew him since he was a baby. He died 3 years ago when he fell off a tree and fought with another silverback and never got better. And when he died, all the local community was very upset, and so was everyone. And it just showed how much gorilla conservation has come, where even the local communities really, really appreciate the gorillas, and they see them as part and parcel of their future. Mountain gorillas are very endangered. There are actually just over 1,000 left in the wild, but the numbers are increasing, which is amazing. When I first started working with them 25 years ago, I have to say, as a vet student, there were only 600, and now it's almost doubled to over 1,000. And they're the only gorilla subspecies which is actually growing. All the other 3 gorilla subspecies are reducing in number, and we think it's partly because there isn't enough community engagement in all these places. Tourism, of course, is a big opportunity where money from tourism can also support local communities as it runs park operations, but there just isn't enough community engagement. And we think that with community engagement, we can reverse the trend and also get the other gorilla subspecies going up. Get to Bwindi, you'll find it's a very hard edge. And please go back to the previous slide. Could you go back to the previous slide, please? it's a very hard edge when you get here. And basically when it became a national park in 1992, people were not allowed to, but the gorillas sometimes come out. And they come out because once they lost their fear for people, when they're habituated for tourism and research, they're more likely to go outside because it used to be part of their former range. And because of the very high human population growth, it's such a hard edge that now they're finding they're going back to where they used to range. And this resulted in a baby gorilla getting scabies. In fact, the whole group got scabies, but the baby gorilla died. And they got scabies when they touched dirty clothing that is put on scarecrows to chase gorillas and other wildlife. So in the slide, I have somebody's banana plant that was destroyed by a gorilla because they like to eat the stem, which is unfortunately, they don't even leave the plant for the farmer. So these are people who are very poor and they're trying, and they have to coexist with wildlife. And so we have to find a way of engaging them to make them feel that wildlife is important. Next slide, please. This scabies was traced to people living around the park who have very little health care. And we felt that we needed to set up conservation through public health. I dealt with this case when I was working as the first veterinarian for the Uganda Wildlife Authority, where they felt that they needed to have a vet because tourists were visiting gorillas and they were worried that they'll make them sick and bring a fatal flu, such as something like COVID-19. So when we set up the program, we started off by focusing on preventing disease between people and wildlife and livestock. And our main focus was wildlife health and working closely with village health teams to teach them to do conservation work. But as we went along, we realized that also they live in a habitat. So we have to conserve the habitat they live in and the other species in the forest, which also include elephants, chimpanzees, many birds, and other monkeys. And so we've stretched out to habitat conservation, and we also started to work with community animal health workers. Then we found out that many people are unhealthy because they're poor, so we started a gorilla conservation coffee social enterprise a few years ago to support the farmers around the park who may not necessarily benefit from the tourism industry because not everyone can be a ranger or a porter or sell crafts or accommodation or food. So this is the kind of situation we have in Bwindi, where we have people live like that, like they have a child every year. And so the children are malnourished, they don't get enough, they don't get treated well, they don't get good health care. Many of them were not going to school. People said, I would have 10 children. Half of them are for going to school, the other half are for chasing wildlife from the garden. So we started to promote hygiene and sanitation because that's the reason why there's so many diseases. And we focused on tuberculosis, scabies, HIV, because there's a big TB, HIV co-infection and diarrheal diseases. And most recently in 2020, COVID-19 has been the big focus in these communities. And we're promoting voluntary family planning. And some of our volunteers give injections. We're promoting nutrition and sustainable agriculture. Especially in this area, it's very steep and it's very easy to have soil erosion. So people have
Gladys, we lost your connection somehow. Yes, I think we can't hear Gladys at this point. If it's not, Gladys, are you there? No, I think we discussed this on forehand, like what if the connection would fail, since yeah, she is in a very deserted place somewhere in the hills, far away from us at least. And I think that the meaning of her story is that you can't work on any project without starting grassroots, without really listening to the local people of what are their reasons to make unsustainable choices, for example. So I think the whole aspect of deep listening to communities is very crucial, and that is what binds the initiatives that we wanted to share with you. I wanted to give some space now for you, because you are here in this session, and we just want some opinions on what you heard so far. We had some questions in the chat. Some of them might already have been answered by Geert. I saw that he was already typing some answers. Maybe what we also could do, because the group is a bit smaller than we first thought it was. Maybe also people are watching on Swapcard, but they can't, sorry guys, participate interactively, only the people who have the direct Zoom link. But we are here with this group. Maybe you can use that feature that you raise your hand or you do like this, and then we just give you the words, because I think that's much nicer, actually. So who has a question? Please raise your hand if you hear this ambitious program. Is there any questions so far from someone? Yeah, of course, Wietse. Please.
Hi everyone.
Ahead.
Super exciting to hear about this, and of course badly needed for the planet. There's a real sense of urgency. I'm wondering if you had to explain in a few words how this initiative is different from other environment initiatives that Ashoka might focus on, such as People and Planet and a number of others. What makes this particular program unique?
Good question, Wietse. And is there someone specifically you want to address it to? I'm looking at Inyas.
Yeah, I just, let's say, answered out of my heart, because I think when you see two programs for wildlife or biodiversity or protecting the planet, things like that, they are, most of the times, they are fixed already before you can enter and you can join. This one is completely different, and this is starting with an idea where some Ashoka Fellows were, let's say, were very helpful to have the framework ready, but the design, the complete design, has to be done by ourselves, and that's the beauty, of course, of it, because we now can empower the program, the methodology, and we will have failures maybe. No worries for that, but at least I think where we have all the experience in this, for instance, in this meeting, but also outside of this meeting, we have so many people who are jointly are willing to help us. I think that's important, that this is not a fixed program that you can join and you have to take it as it is. No, you can design it, you can weave it, you can co-create it and co-design it yourself, and that's the beauty of it, I think. And then we have to commonly agree on how to go forward, but because I think it's very important to my knowledge that we do it like this, and I don't see it that often.
Yes, and maybe I can add to that. Oh, sorry, Nicola, I see you raise your hand, please.
Yeah, hello everybody. Thank you for the invite. And I'm very, very glad to meet some of you again, like Gladys and Inyas. I just wanted to maybe share in a few words an experiment or something we've been doing in mangroves in West Africa for 5 years now, which I think can be replicated and can actually inspire this great initiative that we're starting, that you're starting. As Gladys rightly explained, and all of us are convinced that it can only work if it starts grassroots. So you need the people who know the local communities and know the drivers of biodiversity collapse, because it's always linked with human beings. So if you don't know the human beings, you don't know the drivers, the reasons why they erode or collapse the biodiversity, you cannot change the situation. So we've got to start grassroots. And at the same time, this often limits the access to means, financial, scientific, and so on, because it's only small groups working with small communities that really have the knowledge of what needs to be done to preserve and restore conservation. So what we've experimented is that actually the key is to break the barriers called competition, because the reality is that many of the small NGOs, many of the small groups compete for the same money for lack of access to bigger or to other sources. So turn competition into cooperation. And also each of us is very good at doing some things and is not so good at doing other things. For some of us, it's going to be collective mapping, mapping the territory, who's doing what, and and doing that very well. Some others, it's going to be pure conservation. For others, it's going to be local development. For example, we work a lot with value chains, which can help a lot, but all of that needs to be combined. And what I would like to suggest, because that has worked very well with mangroves in West Africa, is that we find the right platform to exchange, to complement each other, to teach and learn from each other, and to also join forces to get access to more resource, be it scientific, it can be geographical systems, it can be artificial intelligence properly used, it can be access to funding and so on. But starting from a common will, no money to come to a meeting, just the will to share. And then when that starts to happen, then the collaborative work takes over, and then you can share things that work in one part of the world and can actually be adapted very well into another one. Just with the last example, we work in Uganda as well in Kibale National Park, which is about 500 kilometers north of where Gladys works. We face the same problems in a different context with different ethnies, but we have a lot to share because we have the same poverty issues, we have the same social issues, and we have the same crop raiding issues with elephants coming out of the park and ruining the work of the people. So if all of us just do that, sharing what we do, and instead of competing, which is really what happens so far, then I think we will change the paradigm and increase all of our impact tenfold, just doing this.
Thank you, Nicolas. That was beautifully said. And I think, that gives an answer to many of the questions in one time. I wanted to go back 1 second to what Wietse was asking, like, how does this program stand out? Well, obviously, first off, that we co-created together. So this is not invented by someone and then you hear about it and then you wonder what is happening with it. We want to do this together. And I also want to point out, especially for Wietse, because you gave us that input, that it's also about helping the individuals to scale their solutions that are in the project. But most importantly, if you look at all these fellows with all these solutions and still working a bit in silos, it is a fact. You are all so busy with what you do. You can't have the time to even know what that person does in Uganda. You know, you're working in England or somewhere else. And so we, as Ashoka, that is what we can do for you. We create a space that you can learn from each other. And I think that is indeed, Nicola, a very important feature of what we try to achieve. I saw Mugweni.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, Mugweni, you had
Maybe it's good to have
question?
also Natalie say why she thinks this is.
Yeah. I was about to ask, but I saw Mugweni waving. You're on mute, Mugweni.
Sure. Hello. Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. How are you?
Good.
This is great linking up, but my real question is the program still flexible to accommodate those like me who are interested to come on board? No, I've tried a lot of times and I'm still missing out. Because it reads exactly what I'm doing. My worry is now I'm getting older and older. Since 2003, and now I'm running, I might end up fainting without standing up and getting this. But this is exactly what I've been missing.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful to hear. And I think, can we all say this, that we won't fail Mugweni this time? You're on board if you want to, yes?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
All right. Yes, I wanted to go to Natalie from the MAVA Foundation, because like I said, they were so generous to really believe in this concept with no concrete outcome yet. We talk about how to finance system change. Well, this is a great example. So Natalie, I can't see you immediately, but are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Great.
Thanks. Thanks, everyone. It's very nice to be part of this community. I know Ashoka since several years. We exchanged with Ashoka since several years, and we never found out to know a common project together. And why we were very interesting, it's really at the foundation we believe into collaboration. What we have done for our last strategy, I say last strategy because the foundation is closing by 2022. It's we have bring our partner working on one subject like turtle, everybody working on turtle in West Africa, 10 partners coming together doing an action plan, but they have already something in common. It was turtle, they were doing this work. And what I found very interesting with this initiative at Ashoka and why we wanted to help them pilot it, it's the Ashoka Fellows, they come from all the different sectors, you know, from agriculture and social, and they have this objective to help biodiversity. But they are working on all these different angles because there is no one solution, no one silver solution, you know, it's everybody from every corner, and from the community, also the political, the business, we all have to come together. Then we found it interesting, bringing all the different fields together, this approach. And also we have seen that we really try since several years to see in the entrepreneurship sector, people work on environment, but not necessarily with this biodiversity objective. You know, it will be more regenerative agriculture or things around energy, but nothing. The target is to help biodiversity. It was why we were also very interested. And also, as I shared, we are closing in 2022. And knowing that the Ashoka Fellows, there are already people that have demonstrated and tested things. It's already a community that shared same value. And we believe that this really helped to kick off quickly, this collaboration. And also the fact that Ashoka tried it with the theme on democracy also give us the confidence that it's something we want also to help them to try this model. They did it once, it worked well, they continue to improve it. And I don't want to take too much of the time. It's nice to hear some of your other questions. And I was asked to give you maybe one advice, and I really think about it a long time, and just want to share, it's nice to see that people can have common purpose, but really to think at the beginning, what is your common value that bring you together and will make you stick together. We really have to find this because it's, yeah, maybe I have no idea, but this is something great, and to always remind yourself about why you're there together, and it will help you to continue the journey. Thanks again. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to follow the journey with you.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you. I have to ask you all in this call, we are already reaching time, 6 o'clock, and it is an official closing session somewhere else. But since this is a Zoom call, we still have some questions for you. And if you would like to stay on, I would like to invite you to do so. We have like 4 questions that we want your answer to, and you can write it in the chat, because we will save the chat and analyze it, and we'll contact you later if necessary and if you wish that. So I would like to say to those of you who need to drop off on time, thank you for attending this session. If you want to stay in touch, please let us know in the chat. Just, you know, the easiest way is just to say, hi, please contact me. Then we will follow up immediately because, like I said, we will save everything in the chat. So thank you for joining us. For the rest of you who would like to stay on, we have a few questions. And the first one that I would love you to answer in the chat is what do you think we can achieve together with this program? I saw already a question like, oh, it seems so broad, but what do you think that we can achieve best with this approach? Do you have some thoughts around that? And can you type them in the chat, please? I'll give you a second. So what can we achieve? What do you think? Okay, I'm going to go to a next question. Hearing all of this, what could be the risk for this program? What do you see as really something we need to mind and take care of? What is the risk for this program, and what advice do you have for us? Yeah, I see some interesting reflections already. How can you support and give space to the projects that come out of this? It's very important to think about those things. Thank you. And then actually, we're coming to our last question. Do you know any, or maybe yourself, who should we involve? Are there social innovators or any funders that are relevant for this program that we might not have on the radar? Do you have contacts for us, names? Please drop them in the chat, because again, as a community, we are much wiser than only the few of us who started this initiative. So we are really open to learn who is active in this space, who would resonate with this approach. If you have any tips, and also, you know, later, maybe you don't think about it now, but if you come across ideas later, please let us know. Lotte, maybe once the chat is silent again, you can write Noah's email address in the chat for me. Because that is the easiest way to reach us. Noah is the program lead for this program, and it will reach her inbox immediately. Yes, and final question. Maybe some of you have already indicated, like, yes, I want to be involved. Bwindi, I know you for sure. But if there's people that want to really stay updated about this, just write yes in the chat, because your name will be clear for us and we will know how to find you. So maybe with an email behind it makes it even easier for us. But that is also something that we would like to hear. Noah, do you have any other questions for this audience?
No, I think it's fine. I just want to mention that Peter is here also from Common Land, and we're exploring a partnership. This is nice to know for most of us, because we're having the same ambition. Very, very interesting to see how we can collectively do this. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Peter, for making the time with your lovely
and also
lovely baby.
Expert is also here. We're also exploring a partnership with his regenerative community. Sorry, my kids are getting wild now. Yeah, lots of other people, and lovely to see so many fellows in this call. And thanks for the time, and sorry that we've run out.
Yes, that's why I think we must close off, unless there's somebody here that really wants to say something. But I definitely want to thank Injas, Geert, you, Noah, and obviously Gladys for the presentation. And that was really, really wonderful. Georg, I see you're still on the call. Georg is from European Fellowship, and we work very closely with them as well. But I think for now, we will leave it at this, but this is not the end. This is a launch. So we want to do these kind of calls more often and grow this community. So we will invite you for a next call and keep you in the loop of things where we stand in let's say 2 months' time. So you will be hearing from us. And yes, for now, I wish you a great rest of the day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Continue on the good job.
Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you, Natalie.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to continuing collaboration.
Yes, for sure. Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Thanks, Gladys. Thanks,
Thank you,
Geert.
Gladys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah, sorry we lost you at the end.
Yes, yeah, we did. But at least you got the important things there, and people
Yeah,
were able
exactly. It was a lovely presentation. Really lovely to hear your work.
Yes.
And thanks, Geert.
They're gone. Andrea, thank you so much for helping us. Really, you have been our savior. So thank you.
Don't worry, my pleasure.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Bye, Gladys. We will be in touch.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
to.